Hi, this is Vicki Hyman at NJ.com with Erin Medley, my co-host at TV Hangover, which you can subscribe to on iTunes.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast, thank you. But I'm a little excitable because last night Real Housewives of New Jersey returned with Teresa Checks In, the first of a 3-part special about
Only
Teresa.
3 parts?
It's only 3 parts.
Oh,
well,
I thought it was 4.
It is only 3 parts, but you know what they do.
Gonna be some
They
reunion.
reunion and outtakes. Oh my God.
Right.
They will milk it for whatever it is worth. Although I'm very interested in seeing what the ratings are later today.
Yeah.
I have to say, overall, it was a downer of an episode, as one would kind of expect,
Right.
because, you know, she's in jail,
She's in
and
jail.
it's about, you know, she's missing her, she's missing these milestones in her daughter's life, and it's an anniversary of Joe's father's death.
Right.
So there really wasn't a lot for me to sink my snark teeth into.
Well, you weren't trying hard enough because there
Really?
were so many things.
What out of the entire episode, what do you remember the most?
Out of the entire episode, what I remember the most is how Joe and Gia were trying to say that, you know, Teresa's basically in a country club prison.
Yes.
And that she's doing yoga and her exercises and she looks better than she ever has. And then the lawyer...
Yes, he's like, no, it's
like,
really a prison.
It's real prison.
It's really a prison.
There's barbed wire, and you know they can't really have the freedom or the luxuries as that you normally would outside prison. I'm like, so which one is it?
Well, I mean, that's a sad thing because it's the whole Gia and I spin doctor process where they just can't come to terms with the fact that life is not optimal for them, which I think is really a sad thing. You know, and especially because Gia is turning out to be the apologist, the spin doctor for the family. She's a 14-year-old girl. I thought we disagree a little bit here. I thought she came off as very poised, possibly a little too coached.
No, I think she was poised and coached, but she's still a little bratty. She's a 14-year-old. How could she not be bratty? If she weren't bratty, there'd be a problem.
I did not think she really came off as bratty last night. I think she, you know, I think there are members of the clan who come off as bratty sometimes.
Yeah.
Melania. But I thought
Melania.
Gia came off very well last night. But at the same time, for me, it was very sad to watch because it's not a place to put a 14-year-old girl.
I agree. Well, my other WTF moment of the night was when Gia, in her confessional or her one-on-one interview, said that the younger girls think that mommy is away at work. And I'm like, what? How is that possible when they have her on speakerphone saying
you're receiving a call from a federal correctional facility? Well, Joe did say later on Watch What Happens that no, they all know. And but again, it's like they're presenting, you know, something that it's only going to bite them in the end.
Right.
Just, you know, at this point, be truthful.
Yeah.
But the WTF moment for me was the memorial in the backyard, which at first, I mean, Joe used to be in the stone business, so he has this, you know, big slab of, you know, granite or whatever. It looked like a grave, and I was like, A, they buried him in his backyard. I didn't know you could do that. And B, the house is in foreclosure, and I don't think if they ever get a buyer, they're really going to want that. It turns out it was just a memorial.
Right.
He is buried in a cemetery, but still, it was weird.
It was a little... I don't want to say it was weird.
It was weird.
I think
stone memorial in the backyard of the home, particularly that you're being foreclosed on.
That part's a little weird. But I have seen this on other Real Housewives franchises, which Vicki only watches.
I do not get paid enough to watch any other franchise.
Real Housewives of OC, Orange County, Vicki's mother died, and she put a memorial for her. Not this Vicki. Vicki Gumbelson's mother died. And she put a memorial for her in her backyard. So it's not that strange. But when your house is being foreclosed on, it is a little. It is a little strange.
There were a few moments of levity, mostly courtesy of Melania, who I'm sorry. I love the point where Joe's trying to excuse Melania's behavior on the morning of Gia's graduation by saying, "Oh, she's a little sensitive, and you know her mother's gone away. That's why she's acting out."
Yes.
Like, what has been the excuse up until now?
Youthful
exuberance.
What's the name of the other daughter? The one who kind of doesn't look like them?
Gabriella.
Oh, yeah.
We heard her speak.
She does.
Which is more than Gabriella usually gets. I like Gabriella.
If you regularly watch this show, you know that she barely shows up. Like, she barely registers as a member of that family. I always feel so bad for her.
I do. And she seems to be like, you know, really, well, they're all, you know, sweet in their own way. Any comments, Anthony?
Well, someone seems to think that Joe comes across as broken. He comes off as very broken.
Well, I think his psyche may be broken due to the weight of all the, I don't want to say lies, but all the
it's
facades, all the facades that he is trying to juggle. I do not doubt that, obviously he was very broken up about his father's death, coming at a terrible time for him. Mm-hmm. I do think that...
And I also think that he feels a little bit to blame, that he may have put his father through so much stress.
Yes, with all the nonsense. It's not nonsense, it's criminal activity for which you are charged.
Vicki gets really heated about this.
I do. I really feel that a key to their rehabilitation for some viewers would be to step up and show some remorse, admit what you did, and not treat it like it was just something that happened to them when they in fact went out and did it. And you didn't watch What Happens last night, but this actually made my head spin. Andy Cohen asks Joe Gorga, who's also a guest with Joe Giudice on Watch What Happens, asks him, "Do you blame Joe for Teresa being in jail?" And Joe Gorga's like, "Yeah." And then he asks Joe Giudice, "How do you feel about that?" And Joe at first is like, "Oh, well, people can have opinions," even though Joe has said, "Yes, I'm the reason why Teresa's in jail."
Right.
He has said that himself.
He has said that, that she didn't know what was going on.
But now he's saying, "Oh, everybody's got opinions." And then he sort of turns the tables on Joe Gorga and says, "Yeah, but I kind of blame you because you're the one who came on the show and talked crap about me and my family for a couple of years, so it's all your fault."
Which doesn't make any sense.
Which doesn't make any sense because,
no sense at all.
If we're talking, the mortgage fraud happened well before they were on the show, and even the bankruptcy fraud, which was the first thing that really raised red flags, I think, for a lot of people, almost right out of the gate, happened before Joe Gorga and Melissa Gorga got on the show. So,
now there are only two people at fault here.
Yes,
and that would be Joe G. Where are we?
Well, let's discuss that. Okay, so I actually squealed with glee when the call came. This is a call from Teresa Giudice. Now, I have been saying Giudice from the beginning, and we all know that her name has gone through many transfigurations.
Judice.
I mean, there's been many, and Anthony. I'm sorry. Giudice. Andy has often asked, "What is it now?"
Right.
And so I think the last thing that they've settled on was like Judice. But she said Giudice.
She did.
She said Giudice, so I am sticking with it.
And then
Thank you very much.
I did see this part of Watch What Happens Live, and Andy Cohen asked him, and there was still like a non-answer.
Yes.
It was like,
what are you gonna do? Yeah. Just Giudice. How do you say your name?
It's not that hard.
It's Giudice, people.
I can understand there being an American pronunciation and an Italian. Totally get that, but there can't be three versions.
No, there are not three versions.
That's impossible. I would say overall it was a pretty emotional episode. I don't really know how interesting the rest of the episodes will be if it's the same thing.
Yeah, if it's going to be the same thing, then I think that the interest is going to drop off pretty quickly because Teresa's not going to drop any bombshells except for her let's have phone sex. Thank you. She's not going to drop any bombshells.
Question: in her calls, do you think Teresa knew she was on speakerphone?
Yes, of course she did.
Here's why I asked that question, because when she was talking to Gia and they're all standing around the table and people are like yelling in the background, she's like, are you near Nona? They're sitting right there. Like, if you're on speakerphone. I didn't understand that at all.
That actually was the moment that I actually felt the most bad for Teresa, because it seemed like she knew that Gia was crying and she was just trying to, in her own way, pretend like everything was okay. And I really felt her sort of like, I felt for her.
Well, my only concern, and look,
I do have a heart. Oh my God.
It's in there.
It's somewhere.
My only thing is, and look, I don't have any kids, so I don't know what this is like, but I do feel like until they take responsibility, their kids are going to have this view like, oh, they did nothing wrong because it's not a big deal. I sort of feel like they're
being persecuted.
It's the whole situation. And also, I feel like Bravo's being a little intrusive. I did not think that anything Melissa Gorga said was genuine. Like, I just got a little bit of an icky feeling from her overall. Like, oh, I'll be there for Gia, whether she needs a tampon or whatever the other thing was. I couldn't remember.
A ride or a tampon. Because those are the only two things that girls need.
Correct.
A ride or a tampon.
I was like, I don't believe any of this. I just don't buy it. Everything's so superficial.
They weren't integrated into the episode very well, but I think they just had to get, other voices there.
Right.
I did enjoy Rosie. I always enjoy Rosie and Joe together. And, Rosie is not aware that women have sex in prison, which kind of surprises me.
She must not watch Orange is the New
That's what I said in my recap, which you can read online at NJ.com. But also Joe's cringy comment about, yeah, even in men's prisons, if you want to be what was the word?
I don't know.
Hashtag corn dogger.
Yeah.
Is that? They'll give it to you. And then cue, that sort of George Bush uncomfortable laughter.
Oh, corn dogger.
Yeah, corn dogger.
Boy.
Yeah, I just tweeted out hashtag corn dogger. That was it.
So we have Teresa coming home soon.
December 23rd.
December 23rd. Joe going away in March. For 3+ years.
3+ years. And then possibly being deported. Actually, the one issue that I have that's going to be, I think, coming out is whether or not, what's going to happen if you get deported and being separate from the family. And it's I keep on saying, yeah, they're going to go to Italy, sob.
Oh,
and it's also not like the family can't go with them to
That's
Italy.
True. They could move.
I mean, it's
Italy.
not like they are forcing them to be apart.
There's no Real Housewives of Italia.
No,
so
maybe there should be one.
Maybe.
Actually, I think might do well.
All right, well, we'll see. Vicki, of course, we'll be talking about this again on our podcast,
TV Hangover. You could follow us on @TV Hangover Show. Mm-hmm. You could follow me at Vicki. Vicki, I was going to give myself an underscore. Vicki High, she's the underscore.
@E_meds. And of course, subscribe to our podcast in the iTunes store, TV Hangover.
So we'll be back next week. We're back on Wednesday with the podcast, and Sunday I'll be live tweeting and recapping it again.